Hello, and welcome back to Are You Ready for Your Inspection? Today I am with
Marlis.
So tell me why I know you, first of all. Tell me, let's do this. Let's talk about
Nessa.
Don't go too far back.
We go back to the very start of EPOP. I was very privileged as a very new manager to come to your very first EPOP and have caught the bug and went on from there.
The very first one.
I came to the very
in
first
one. In Hampshire, in the church hall.
Oh yes.
Oh my wordy. God, you're old.
I know. Yeah. Let's not go there. Let's you are taking out my grace, right?
Okay, yeah, I'll get Anthony to do that for you. Yeah.
But then we started a conversation. I think I first contacted you privately because I was doing my degree and I wanted to quote you. And I couldn't quite figure out how to quote your book.
Yeah, not many people should quote me. That point.
And then we started the conversation from there. And then it went to seeing you at the EPOPs. And then you started wanting to have your associate trainers for Jigsaw.
Yeah.
And I thought that's absolutely something that's right up my street.
We love you as our associate trainer.
Thank you.
Absolutely love you. Yeah. So that Anthony would rather listen to you in his ears rather than me.
I doubt that. I do ramble on as well. I think that was Anthony's first note for me. So can you just go slow down a bit and just yeah. But I absolutely love it. And it's been such a journey. And you've been there throughout all phases of my real love for I've been in the early years for nearly 20 years, but you have been there for all of the actual love, that real, when you move from it's no longer just, I love it because it's great, but I feel like I'm now at an impact. I'm now at a point where things really change, and that's who you've been.
Well, I thank you for that, and that's not what I've got you on to actually pump me up. But hey ho, on a Friday afternoon when we're doing this recording, I don't mind. Okay, I'm just.
Yeah, on Friday we all need the love on a Friday.
Yeah, we all need the love. Yeah, exactly. After the week I've had, we all do need the love. Yeah. Okay, so then you going from being a delegate at Art Exploring the Power of Play, I decided, sorry, that was me, not you. I decided that you should be part of our workshops.
Yes.
So this year, talk about the workshop that you did.
So this year I talked about how to engage children who have English as an additional language, which is a huge baby of mine. You know that I've been championing language acquisition for children for I don't know how long, mainly because I'm an immigrant myself. I didn't grow up speaking English. So it's always been something that's ignited my soul. And I think it was my very first training that I did for you. The very first associate trainer thing that I did was a short clip on EAL. And then actually, would you like to expand? And I went, oh, yes, I would.
Let me have it. Yeah. So, and actually, this is the reason why, and I don't particularly like debates, if I'm honest with you, okay? Because I find they could be, I don't want them to appear confrontational, if that makes sense. There's a fine line between a healthy debate and confrontation. But I've had a few people that have spoken to me because obviously I go out and do quality improvement audits. That's my remit. You know that. That's what I do. So I know what an Ofsted inspector is going to be looking for because I've been doing it a number of years, okay? And so one of the things that I know is I went to a feedback session on an Ofsted inspection, and one of the things they picked up on, and I say this, okay, because that's my remit, they were saying that staff were not using some of the common words in children's home language, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, and the owner of the setting said, well, actually, that's because parents don't want them to. And she said, well, actually, you're not giving them a sense of belonging because you're not actually helping an understanding of their words. So I'm going to go with that, okay, because that's my remit, okay? So I do a lot of things on where I share, and I brought these because I wanted to share them on the podcast. So I don't know if this is going to go on YouTube or not, but I love these because I've seen them in action. Are these talking tins?
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah, awesome. they're awesome.
So I went to a setting a few weeks ago, and they have these all out. There were lots of them, different colours. I mean, there's even a purple one. If you could have a purple one, you're going to have a purple one, right? They're actually called dog talking tins, and I'm not affiliate, but they're dog talking tins on Amazon. Just saying, okay. Really highly recommend them personally. And they had a little emotions table so that when children came in, they were in different languages. So the parents had recorded. So they had quite a few parents with English as additional language who recorded different emotion words on how they're feeling. So happy, sad, angry, upset, tired. And quite often I see these talking tins in settings, and they say this when they do the learning. Well, we've got these talking tins, and you go, oh, that's amazing, but you want to see it in practice. This setting in Marlborough that I went to visit, and I'm hoping they're going to be listening to this because I absolutely love it. They were doing the colour monster, talking about emotions. And so they had the different colours of these talking tins. Yeah, that's how I know they're dog ones, because she told me. And there was a little girl who was Russian at this little table on the entrance, just patting. She was repeating every word on all of those things, not just even in her home language that our mum had recorded on there, but she was repeating every other language. Even I couldn't do it. And I was like, oh my God, it actually works. But she was going around looking at the colour monster, going through the book by herself. It wasn't invisible. She was doing it and pressing these buttons, and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Absolutely. So my thing is that we need to, the other thing is, and I don't want this podcast to be about me, I need you to explain this. So is that I say that if you're going to pronounce the words, you need to be making sure that you phonetically sound it correctly, because if you get it wrong, you're going to have mixed messages for children. Am I right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
So I do TikTok, as you know. There's a few videos on there if you've not watched them. I'm just saying. And I get this all of the time when I talk about phonetically saying it, and quite a few comments are going, our speech and language therapist says that we should be saying the words because we're getting them wrong. So I'm like, okay. So I then go, well, actually, then if you're getting them wrong, then you need to be doing like sign language or Makaton or something for children to actually recognise, and that's how you bring the group together.
Yeah.
So give me your opinion, Marlis, on these and what I'm saying, because I'm open to it, but I need to understand it.
So for me, there's actually two different parts to this, because the dots I love. There are also versions of speech cards. There are also versions of, you can get a talk and photo album, which you can record over Amazon. Honestly, look at it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
A talking what?
A talking photo album. So it literally, your old photo albums, the ones where you actually still stuck photos into, rather than the ones that you can now just create.
Yeah.
IT wizards. Forgive me, Anthony. Honestly, I'm not. But
yeah.
But you can get those, and you can record over them, and you can record them by page. And in fact, I want to say that's something that I brought up in the workshop, but certainly it's something that we've been using in order for children to have that, also to stay current with the language cohort that you have, because obviously you might have children, like you just mentioned, who are maybe Russian as their mother tongue.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And they're amazing because you can re-record them. You don't have to keep the same stuff. You can update it. If you update your room or your setting, you can update it, and you can update a single page, or you can update the entire thing. You have only a few minutes in total of recording time, but it's awesome because you also don't want to overwhelm people. So for me,
I love that. Why did I not know about that?
Honestly, I actually came across it because we recorded something for our nephews, who obviously, because I'm originally German, live in Germany, and it was our way of introducing ourselves whilst during COVID, because it meant they had something that we could show them that is a tactile and concrete thing. But for me, so essentially the discussion are two parts, which aren't quite two parts of the same string. It's the part where parents record words. I love the part where you learn words in order to understand them, I find that so important, because the amount of times that we have to, and it's not just actually English as an additional language, but any child really, there'll be culture, different things.
Communication and language, you know that.
So you'll always have those words. My problem when practitioners use words that aren't their home language and that they don't know particularly well is exactly the pronunciation part. And it's slightly more than phonetics, because actually by default, unless you're really involved in the language and you're really fluent, your brain will automatically be basically drawn to your own phonetical alphabet, which essentially means there'll be certain letters or certain variations that your brain automatically recognizes, and it's nothing to do with
language acquisition. Isn't that Chomsky?
There's language acquisition by Chomsky, and there's been a new study that's come out in terms of why, for example, children are finding, I think under the age of 10, find it easier to get on with language because their brain is more open, because their brain it hasn't started the magnets yet. The magnets for us mean a particular sound that only exists in a certain language, unless you have been exposed to that language a lot of the time.
I get that now.
You won't hear it, or your brain will automatically go for the sound that you know. And they actually exist in every language. So for example, in English, you have things like your L is pronounced in 2 different ways, depending on where it is in your word. So for the beginning of your word, L is pronounced lightly, where you start at the front of your tongue. At the end of a word, like in little, suddenly it becomes a deeper sound, your tongue dips. For someone like me, who didn't grow up with that, who had a different sound, that can become a complication, because my brain will automatically steer towards the wrong sound. And therefore my pronunciation, even though I know what it's meant to sound like, won't necessarily sound right. And my brain doesn't tell me that it doesn't sound right, because by the alphabet that I've known, the phonetical part, it will sound right. And the same goes for how you hear language. So you will hear language, and that's things like, for me, the word save and safe sound very similar. And it took me a long time, and I've been here 20 years. It took me a long time to understand the difference, because for me, in my language, the f sound doesn't vary. And you will hear that now, because I'm now going wary, because for me, the V and the W sound are very similar. That's actually how accents happen.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So that means that you are basically at a double disadvantage when you use a word that isn't in your own language, because both your ears won't necessarily hear that you're not pronouncing it correctly, because you don't know that it should sound different, and you automatically can't pronounce it correctly because your brain automatically goes to your own pronunciation from your own language. That is something that you can overcome, but it does take either someone who's got an extremely good ear. So you'll find that, for example, musicians will be extremely good at doing languages because their ear is trained to hearing the most minuscule differences. Yeah. But the problem with that is that if you say a word that you think you're saying correctly, even with the slightest of accents, the child will hear it as a something's off. Something's off. There's almost, and the child won't necessarily understand why, but it becomes an out of context situation, which actually makes the child automatically go, something isn't right. Something isn't right. And I can't quite figure out why. Or you've gotten it perfectly right, and you've actually nailed the pronunciation, and the child goes, great, I will speak my language with you now. Why would I exchange it? I'll just go ahead and do it all. Yeah. You don't really want either of those situations unless you're fluent. If you're fluent in the language, it is a huge benefit. Obviously, it's a huge benefit. And exactly like you said, how do you bring in the children that desperately need that little bit of extra if you don't have the language? But creating something that you can't then follow up, which is, for example, when you learn the sentence, where's the next bus stop? That's great, but do you understand the answer? And if you don't understand the answer, what's the purpose of the question? And knowing how you say the question. So for me, learning the language is really important, but with the focus of you understanding the child rather than you being understood, because it also then brings you part way. It actually gets you to the point where you're showing the child, I am coming towards you, I've heard what you said, and I will react to it within the environment that I offer you, which is an English environment. I'm not offering you an environment that is your mother tongue, because I don't have that. I can't give you that, but I can give you all of these stilts that I will build around you until you can walk with it. And I will show you that you don't just have to exchange for my currency, I will also exchange for yours, but in a way that I can actually handle. I can understand you saying susu because you need to go to the toilet. That's important because it gives me a signal, but also the child will then have their needs met because I've understood them, but won't be confused because I've used something. And again, depending on which language it is, you'll also end up finding that the most minuscule of differences in how you pronounce it will actually make it a different word. So my sister-in-law was Thai, and you can basically, I can't remember which word it was, and I'm so sorry if I'm saying it wrong totally, but you can basically make tiger into coconut, essentially, with just the most minuscule of mispronunciations, where it then becomes something totally different.
Wow. So say the people that are listening to this, okay, have few children that are in the setting with English as their additional language, okay, because what you're going to be saying to me, I'm going to be using now in my audits, you know that, don't you? And I'm going to be sharing this. Okay, so what is your
pressure? No pressure.
No pressure. No, every day's a learning day for me, believe you me.
Oh, for me too.
When you don't learn, there's no point being there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what would you recommend to practitioners or people that are staff that are in settings, you know, whether it's preschools, childminders or nurseries, what would you recommend, how they do it? What would you do? What some golden nuggets?
So if I had to pick, say 3 things that would be incredibly important to me, the first thing is ask each family, and if you can, for starters, that's something that you should already know. Do you know that the adult can speak English? That's a really important part anyways. But ask them for specific words, because it's not just about knowing the language, it's about understanding that in each culture, like we've already touched on, each family might have a different word. So it doesn't really matter. So for me, we use a different word for purse in my hometown in Germany to my sister-in-law, who grew up in a different part of Germany altogether. So the same word wouldn't make sense to her children, even though it's both German. So make it relevant for the family. Let them choose, what does your child say when they are hungry? Like we asked any child, any family, what are your child's signs?
Yeah.
Secondly, I really loved the other day, I saw in one of your podcasts, you were talking about love languages.
Oh, God, we're going to be going. Oh, my wordy. It's one of my favourite subjects. Maybe I should honestly about early years and just do love languages.
Love languages is so, and it's so much more than just how do I express love and how do I receive love. What I find specifically with children of a different language, we need to know how they receive love. Because if we can find out how they receive love, we can give that. We don't need language more often than not, unless their love language happens to be words, which obviously could be, in which case record the parents, always record the parents, have nursery rhymes around. There are ways of doing that. But for example, a child who can't necessarily express themselves, if their love language doesn't happen to be touch, you touching them is going to overstep boundaries. So knowing their love language gives you an opportunity to actually bring them into a situation where they feel loved and cozy, and they'll automatically be in so much more of a happy place, which is exactly what they need. Because actually what the studies show is that a child just needs that. They just need to play. The reason children do that is because actually they have an impassive way of learning language. So as long as they're exposed to language, and as long as they can access the learning environment without it having a language barrier. So if you need to explain to each child how they're allowed to play, that's an issue. So bin that. But if you know how they receive love, you can give that without having actual spoken language. And then the final thing, and I think for me, that is probably one of the most important one in terms of settling, film your environment at the height of the child and share the video with your parents. It's really inexpensive. There's nothing you need to do, and walk it around. You can either have it totally mute or you can underlay it with music, depending on what your deal is. But then the child can discuss your setting in their home language with their parents, which is a safe person. At home, they can discuss where things are. There might be words that come up as they go, which the parents can then let you know, which means if a child goes, actually, this, and they go, actually, this is what they mean when they talk about this, they saw it on the video, because you automatically become more safe, more familiar, and something that could be discussed in the home language without you having to bring in your home language, their home language, in a way that is inappropriate for you.
Oh my God. Oh my word. Okay. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. I think I could listen to you for hours. You know I did. When you started doing the stories in COVID, I watched them. I'm going to be honest with you. I watched your storytelling because you know I love you. I love what you do, and how you animate what you do is just phenomenal. Those, what you've just said, those golden nuggets are absolutely pure quality. I can't thank you enough. I'm just like, I can't wait. I'm going to share everybody this episode, honestly, because it's just, why would I not think about things like that?
I think everybody thinks about exactly these kind of things. I just think, how many of us feel the need to see it through? I feel the need because I know what it felt like to be in a situation where, when I didn't understand, I was ridiculed, I was shouted at, people raised that it's not an auditory thing. I just don't understand, use a different word. But you know what? I love when I came away from EPOP, bearing in mind I went there for a workshop, right? As in, I did the workshop, and I came away having spoken to so many people, so inspired. And I would like to just put that out there, because it was so much more than just what I said. It was every person bringing in the, do you know what? We do this. What? Didn't that? You do? Oh my goodness, tell me more. Tingstift, which is something that I didn't know actually existed in England. Absolutely amazing. Something that I know, again, from Germany. Despite the fact that I love language, that's not something that came up for me. It's a pen that you use in books, and it reads to you in the language. You know, so yes,
every day is a learning day, right?
It was amazing. And I think the worst place that you'll ever get to is the moment when you go, I took nothing away from that.
Oh, don't even, then I'm out the game. I'm gone.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'll retire. I'm done. I'm just, yeah. And I love, and that's the other thing. I know that you said you don't love arguments or discussions in a way where it can become confrontational. I don't love confrontation at all, but I love constructive discussions, because I also think, exactly for what you said, from the point of view of an offset inspector, I need to hear that. And also, what my experience certainly has been with offset inspectors, more often than not, and there have been exceptions, but more often than not, if you have good reasons that you explain, when you can say, actually, I am confident in my practice because here are my reasons, and you can tell me all you like about what else you're, but I'm telling you the reason I'm doing it is this, and here's the impact it's had. That's the constructive discussion. And if I don't have that, if I can't have the pushback so I can actually consider this and reflect, then actually I'm not doing it right. Because if I'm scared of that part, then chances are an offset inspector is going to rattle me, and not because they necessarily would, but
no, I get that
in my practice. So I am so excited about being invited with you to have this discussion, and I am really excited to also have that feedback in terms of, do you know what, it is important to talk about how it's perceived differently, and that an offset inspector could come in and say, actually, that's not enough. So it's really important to go, actually, do I think that it's enough? Would it help me? And what are the pros and cons? And I love that.
And what strategies can you put in place to actually ensure that actually you can prove that you're adding impact?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's the, where is your impact? Where is your impact? And what would happen if you tried the different method? Because I think that's the other thing. What happens if you do have a child who would absolutely love you to speak their language, and if you can accommodate that? I always say, if you actually happen to have that skill, there is no question that you should absolutely use it, because it would bring so much for that child. Specifically in the situation that we're in at the moment, where there's such an ever-growing multicultural community, really, that we live in. Just know your reasons. And that's what you always say, and this is what I'm saying. You've always been part of my journey in that, because it is always search for the impact, search for your reasons, understand why you do what you do. And if you find that actually somebody can argue you out of what you're already doing, then you shouldn't be doing it. You shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, I could talk to you for hours. I
could talk to you.
Yeah, I know. So if anybody is listening to this and wants to come to, I'm just going to lay it in there, Exploring the Power of Play, EPOP next year, September the 7th. Marlis is going to be there because we've invited her back.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Well, maybe I'll have time to go and visit the workshops next year, maybe.
Do it, because mine is going to be on the magic of stories. So, you know, just what you said. And my stories are coming back.
Oh, my wordy.
I'm so excited, honestly.
I don't blame you.
And it was so weird because Anthony caught me at a time when I just went, you know what? I need to bring the stories back. It's time. It's time.
You know I love your stories.
So yeah, it'll be.
Are all your stories still, did you YouTube them?
I didn't YouTube them at the time. They will be YouTube now because they're now going on my own channel, which is the Social Gift of Language.
Oh my God, well, that's my
Oh, that was a spoiler. It isn't actually live yet. I probably shouldn't have said that.
Oh, well, yeah.
It's coming.
Okay, this isn't going live until November.
I've got time. Okay, I can do that.
No pressure, but you've got a month left, okay? A month. Okay.
Yeah,
I love talking to you. I can spend hours talking to you, you know I do, and I send you so much love. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It really means a lot to me. Thank
you for letting me have the discussion and bringing some fire as well to make sure that I'm actually still getting it right.
Yeah, you are getting it right. I wouldn't invite you on if you weren't. No. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.